Well, thank you for being here today. As we all know, the American people are struggling. They're suffering under Joe Biden and the Democrats' inflation. And why do we have this? It's because last March they decided they needed to spend an awful lot of taxpayer money in our economy. And we said, hey, this is going to raise the cost for everybody, and it has. So you fast forward to where we are now, the Democrats are at it again, trying to raise taxes and increase government spending at a time of high inflation and a time of recession. A 40-year high of inflation, and a lot of that we know is related to energy, which is what we're here to talk about today, the specific impacts of what the Democrats are going to try to do, and it's going to raise energy costs for the American families. Joe Biden's trying to take a little victory lap now, saying that the price at the pump isn't as sky high as it was earlier. So much of inflation is related to energy. And what we know is the price of gas today at the pump is still $2 a gallon more than it was when Joe Biden took office. So there has been a bit of a decrease in demand because people can't afford to drive at $5 a gallon for gasoline. They've had to change the way they live, they drive, they work. All of those things have had to be changed. And what we hear from folks that look at this is that the average family has spent over $1,500 in the past year for energy, higher than they had the year before, all as a result of the policies of Joe Biden and this administration. People know what they want. They want energy that it's affordable, available, and reliable. And we know that the country is already looking at the fact that we may face blackouts as the summer progresses. The experts have said about 2/3 of the country is going to be subject to blackouts. But that doesn't seem to stop the Democrats who want to raise taxes on American energy, as well as in energy that we import from overseas. They actually have in this bill a fee on every barrel of oil that is imported, billions in dollars of increased taxes which will be going to the pain at the pump. And remember, this is Joe Biden who just a year ago at the Glasgow Climate Summit in Scotland went and asked Vladimir Putin to produce more Russian oil and send to the United States. He went to Iran from oil, Venezuela from oil, and just went hat in hand to Saudi Arabia saying, send us more. That will all be taxed at a higher rate, taxing every barrel more than ever before. Oh, and they've indexed it to inflation. So at a time when we have 9.1% inflation, Joe Biden and the Democrats want to put a tax that's growing at the rate of inflation, which is going to make inflation worse. That's what these folks are up to. So the pain at the pump is going to get worse. And it's not just on the cost of energy to drive your car. It's also the energy to heat your home, energy that powers our country, energy for electricity. So Joe Manchin has agreed to something that the folks in West Virginia and in Wyoming said, Joe Manchin, what the heck are you thinking? And it has to do with coal. And that's how we have this here. Coal associations on the Manchin-Schumer bill. This is from the West Virginia Coal Association, Joe Manchin's home state. Why support anything Chuck Schumer, Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, or John Kerry want for coal? That's what the people of West Virginia are asking their Senator Joe Manchin. Why? It is incomprehensible, they say, why any miner would support the Manchin-Schumer legislation. So that's the impact of folks at home that Joe Manchin apparently is not paying attention to at all. So what's the money going to be used for? Well, there's the climate slush funds. There's the sorts of things that Joe Biden ought to be familiar with, because when he was vice president, there was a thing called Solyndra. Wasted government money. Many of these projects, and they're going to be loaded into this bill as well under the grand title of One Big Climate Slush Fund. And then there's all these subsidies for electric vehicles. And for rich people for electric vehicles, you can make up to $300,000 a year for a family. Full subsidy. Electric vehicles costing $80,000, $7,500 subsidy. I mean, that's what we're looking at here, at a time when the families of this country are hurting Inflation is eating into people's paychecks. People are very concerned about their future. And even if wages are going up a little, they're falling further and further behind the families of America are each month as Joe Biden's been president because costs have gone up so high. The Democrats are going to make it worse if they're able to pass this reckless tax and spending bill.